It's Brian Peck. You know, before I protested Nickelodeon, I did not realize that this man by the name of Brian Peck existed, really. And I started seeing him showing up everywhere on the internet. I was like, wait a minute. This guy knew Dan Schneider. This guy knew this guy. This guy worked also after he was already in jail with children. And he just obviously bothered me from the very beginning. Once I realized he existed, I could not unsee him. And so we're going to go into who Brian Peck is, his past, his opportunities that he got even after being in jail, and also going into all the different individuals that supported him from the beginning, etc. And we're going to be watching some footage that, let's just say, I'm not down with. I got some clips from the Amanda Bynes show that just really deeply disturbed me as a parent. And so we'll be going through all of this today. Let's digest, you guys. So the one article I was able to find when it came to Brian Peck was from Daily Mail. Wow, they just go straight up. PDF file, X-Men actor convicted of S-ing Nickelodeon child star is still working with underage kids. Well, that's because Hollywood is a whole ring of these guys, by the way. All of them protect one another. Brian Peck served 16 months in prison after admitting 2 counts of a Nickelodeon child star. He was charged with 8 counts of SA, including A by anesthesia or controlled substance. This guy is disgusting. 54 years old. He was in 2 X-Men movies and all 3 Living Dead movies, and is now featured in controversial documentary on PDF file ABUSC in Hollywood. Now, what's interesting about the X-Men is that we're going to be getting into him as well. He also has a bunch of allegations when it comes to children, etc. So we'll go into that. And it's interesting that they work together. As he strolls through Hollywood, X-Men and Living DEAD actor Brian Peck does not seem to have a care in the world. None of them do. They're all just strolling through Hollywood without a care in the world, honestly. That is the best description I've seen when it comes to these guys. They really are just strolling through Hollywood with no care in the world, over and over again. But in fact, Peck is convicted child SO who used his movie industry role to ABUSE a Nickelodeon star, and who astonishingly is not banned from work with children. How is he not banned? Peck was tracked down by Daily Mail Online as a controversial movie documentary, An Open Secret, is released, which, by the way, if you have not seen the film Open Secret, if you can stomach it, please watch it. It is super important documentary, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Dubbed the movie Hollywood Doesn't Want You to See, An Open Secret tells a story of 5 victims who say they were M as young boys trying to make it in the film business. Peck is featured in the film, but Daily Mail Online has obtained full details on the charges which were leveled against him. I love that he's in front of Monster A Go-Go. How'd you just get there, man? Like, that to me is a little bit too faded. What a monster he seems to be. So perhaps most disturbingly, he is only prohibited from direct contact with children. And that's something that people don't understand. So when it comes to S offenders, they can't get into physical contact with children. They also have to register every single time they move. And if they don't, it's a violation. But as we all know, Brian Peck worked on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody for Disney after all of this. And so now you understand why he was the mirror. He was the voice of the mirror, because that was Disney's way of getting around the fact that he is an S offender. They made him the voice of a mirror because technically he won't have any physical contact with children. But why I have a problem with that is because kids try to find a lot of nostalgic material that they have watched. They'll start to look for these people on the internet. And what if some child is like, oh, the mirror? and then finds Brian Peck, which is why even if he is not having any physical contact on set with the children on Disney, he is still the voice of something on a children's TV show. Like, what? How is that even possible? Disgusting, Disney. He has worked on a Disney show and a horror film set in a high school. Ew. He played an S-Ed teacher according to the movie's credits. Peck, 54 years old, was convicted in 2004. Peck was convicted of a lewd act against a blank and blank 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 of a person under the age of 16. In court documents obtained by Daily Mail Online, the victim is only named as John Doe. So there's Jane Doe for everyone listening in, and when it is a male, it is John Doe to protect their identity. The child did not want his identity revealed for fear of it having a negative effect on his career, which is so sad that it hasn't had that negative of a effect when it came to Brian Peck, but the child is more concerned about that. Peck had been coaching the youngster in acting at his home when the offenses happened and was only arrested after the budding actor's parents reported him to the police. The documents show Peck was originally charged with 11 counts, including lewd act upon a blank. Oh God, this is so bad. Blank of a person under 16, attempted blank of a person under 16, blank, 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 blank. In the end, he pleaded no contest to 2 counts, lewd act against a blank and blank, 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 and the court found him guilty of both. The remaining counts were dismissed. So here is the document here. So here's the, at least some documentation. So here's Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. So let me just give you a little bit of a side note here. I was on Sweet Life of Zach and Cody after I left the Zoe 101 TV show. And the reason why I'm mentioning this right now is because I have a concerning story. My last day on Zoe 101 was because a talent coordinator by the name of Ian brought me into a trailer without my parents' knowledge. The reason why that story is very important to me, obviously now we know it was a situation with Britney Spears, and Britney Spears has apologized to me multiple times. So this is not about Britney Spears. But you have to think about that scenario as if, what if Ian brought me into a trailer with a predator and my parent didn't know where I was? Because Ian told my mom that he was bringing me into makeup and hair. So she thought that's where I was. But instead, when Ian was walking me over to makeup and hair, he said, "Oh, Jamie, Brittany would like to talk to you, blah, blah, blah," and brought me into the trailer that sadly a traumatic event did end up happening. But thank God it wasn't as traumatic as being in a room with a predator. So fast forward, after leaving Zoe 101 and they banned me from the Kids' Choice Awards. That's right, that was part of the rule. When I left Zoe 101, they told me that I could never go to a Kids' Choice Awards again. Whatever. Punishing children once again for speaking up. I get Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, which I thought, okay, I'm probably safer here. That's what I was hoping. I go to the set. Guys, I'm doing rehearsal. And this is live audience, by the way, very different than Zoe 101. And I'm sitting on the couch, and then there's the lobby for Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. And I remember it just looked to the left, and I saw Ian, and my entire body froze. And I was like, why is Ian here? You know, I spoke out against him, and then all of a sudden he's there on set on a whole other network. And I'm like, why is Ian here? I had fear that he was like retaliating or something. I remember trying to find my mom, like looking for my mom. And I ended up seeing her, and I was like pointing, and she ends up looking over and sees Ian. And we're both like, what the hell is going on? So after rehearsal, I end up talking to my mom, and my mom's already talking to everyone there and saying, Ian cannot come anywhere near my child. Ian has already done child endangerment when it comes to Alexa, and he is not allowed anywhere near her. And then she asked them, why is he here? And they're like, oh, we just hired him. I guess Nickelodeon let go of Ian for good reason, because he put a child in danger. But then Disney just plucks him up, and he's already working on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. It's just important to note this, because this is how it all works, really. They get fired from one place, and then they end up at another without any type of consequence, repercussions. You know, I was triggered as a child once again. It was only a couple weeks after I left Zoe 101. I mean, I think it was like months. It was very close. And so it was very triggering and scary. And so they had to tell Ian, listen, you cannot go anywhere near Alexa. But now when I hear about Brian Peck, I find it very interesting, because apparently it was a Nickelodeon star that Brian Peck preyed upon and harmed. And then Disney's like, pluck, moves him over to Disney. And it doesn't surprise me at all. They just do this without any care in the world. Like the Daily Mail said, just a stroll through Hollywood without a care in the world. That's them. That's a little bit of my Sweet Life of Zack and Cody story in the midst of this, because interesting enough, he was also on that show as well. So moving on. Count 2 says Peck willfully, unlawfully, and lewdly committed a lewd and blank, 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 John Doe, who was only 15 years old, with the intent of blank, appealing to and gratifying blank, 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 who was at least 10 years older than John Doe. Count 6 says Peck did unlawfully, being over the age of 21 years old, participate in an act of OC with John Doe, a person under the age of 16 years old. I mean, this is disgusting. An open secret names Peck as one of the several ABUSERs who have worked in Hollywood, and features interviews with victims who bravely spoke out about what happened to them. However, its credibility has been questioned because one of the 5 men is Michael Egan, who later withdrew 4 lawsuits against Hollywood bigwigs, including Bryan Singer. Peck's victim is not featured in An Open Secret, although the film highlights his case. Peck was convicted in October 2004 and sentenced to 16 months in jail. But after completing his sentence, returned to Hollywood, plug, 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 and resumed his work as an actor and dialogue coach. According to IMDb, he has worked on several children's shows since he got out. Disgusting. He also worked alongside director Bryan Singer, himself the subject of an SA lawsuit, which was dropped, and for which the lawyer who brought it has now apologized. We all know how that works. We'll do an episode about how lawyers get survivors to apologize. On X-Men and X-Men 2 before his arrest. According to his IMDb page, Peck worked on Disney's show The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody in 2006 to 2007. He also played a role of S.Ed teacher. Can you guys believe this? S.Ed teacher in 2009 short horror movie called Quarantine, set in a high school. In a high school. Again, minors. S.Ed teacher. That's Hollywood. He is listed as a dialogue coach in 2010 children's movie Jack and the Beanstalk, which starred Chevy Chase. And more recently, he is listed as a dialogue coach on 22 episodes of Charlie Sheen's comedy series Anger Management, which Charlie Sheen has his own allegations, right? Was it Birds of a Feather Flock Together? Now, I guess it says that Peck's profile on IMDb even says that he's a registered SO. So why did Disney hire him? Peck is a cult figure in the horror movie world, blah, blah, blah. He shouldn't be allowed around children, period. Which, I mean, I don't think anybody has any arguments there when it comes to the fact that he shouldn't be around children. He's still working on camera. It's a complete scandal. Anne Henry, who runs the nonprofit Biz Parents, which helps families of children in the industry and whose research formed much of the basis of An Open Secret, says Peck's SOing and ability to return to the industry highlighted the need for enhanced protection for children in Hollywood. Brian Peck's actual SO conviction of a child actor was related to a show which was on Nickelodeon. I applaud that child. Me too. I applaud that child as well. It is rare that a child of that stature would prosecute because they understandably fear for their career. I think he handled it incredibly well, managing to cover his identity to this day. So, here's Brian Peck. Look at him. Wow, he has a house. He has a Mercedes, it looks like. He seems like he could care honestly less when it comes to the fact of what his actions were. That's what Daily Mail had to say. And then when I was looking into Brian Peck, so we know the years now that he was convicted. And if you look, he's actually worked on a lot of kid shows since the conviction. There's The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. There's The Jack and the Beanstalk, even Freaks of Nature. Going to The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, I had to find which episodes he was in. I found one of them here on YouTube, and we're just going to watch a quick clip of this. So Brian Peck played the mirror on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and that is because a child S offender is not allowed to have any type of direct physical contact with children. So Disney put him as the mirror. So let's watch this for a second.
Lyndon, every time I come in your closet, I get lost. Here, take a map. Wow, I gotta check out Hat World.
How do I look?
Well, I like the top.
Not you. Talking to the mirror.
2 words. Gorgeous.
Did your mirror just talk?
Yeah,
Yep.
And the mirror just said to a minor, "You look gorgeous." But you know what I find really annoying? Every single time these things happen, I never hear from the networks. I mean, out of all people to tell a minor that she looks gorgeous, why Brian Peck? And the reason why I'm pretty positive they probably did know is because he was a voice and he wasn't a character. And they all know. I mean, you have to remember these circles within Hollywood are very small, and it does trickle down. Everyone hears everything about everyone. Trust me. And Brian Peck, that type of offense, everyone in Hollywood around him definitely was aware. But still, Disney had no problem. They were like, well, if he's just the mirror and he's not actually getting any contact with children, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Wrong. And I'm not saying this just for Brian Peck, but you have to remember these individuals are very sly in the sense where if they have any access to children, even now being the mirror on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, he can go to parents and say, I'll be a dialogue coach. I was the mirror on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. And then boom, he's in a room once again with a child being a dialogue coach and have access to these children again, which is why it's dangerous. It's not about just these child S offenders not having actual physical contact in the moment while they're working. It's about what that can do when they decide to continue to prey. Sadly, there has not been much research when it comes to if these predators stop preying. They don't, a lot of them. I remember talking to one lawyer, and it was apparently on average 5 years. They could go without doing that again. But they do it again. And why also risk it, right? With children? I don't really see the point of being like, let's just roll the dice here and see what happens with children.